My first summer in the Sierra by John Muir, August the 9th. I went ahead of the flock and crossed over the divide between the Merced and Tulameen basins. The gap between the east end of the Hoffman Spur and mass of mountain rocks about Cathedral Peak, though roughened by ridges and waving folds, seems to be one of the channels of a broad ancient glacier that came from the mountains on the summit of the range. In crossing this divide, the ice river made an ascent of about 500 feet from the Tulameen Meadows. This entire region must have been overswept by ice. From the top of the divide, and also from the big Tulameen Meadows, the wonderful mountain called Cathedral Peak is in sight. From every point of view, it shows marked individuality. It is a majestic temple of one stone, hewn from the living rock, and adorned with spires and pinnacles in regular cathedral style. The dwarf pines on the roof look like mosses. I hope sometime to climb to it to say my prayers and hear the stone sermons. The big Tulameen Meadows are flowery lawns lying along the south fork of the Tulameen River at a height of about 8,500 to 9,000 feet above the sea, partially separated by forests and bars of glaciated granite. Here the mountains seem to have been cleared away or set back so that wide open views may be had in every direction. The upper end of the series lies at the base of Mount Lyell, the lower below the east end of the Hoffman Range, so the length must be about 10 or 12 miles. They vary in width from a quarter of a mile to perhaps 3/4, and a good many branch meadows put out along the banks of the tributary streams. This is the most spacious and delightful high pleasure ground I have yet seen. The air is keen and bracing, yet warm during the day, and though lying high in the sky, the surrounding mountains are so much higher, one feels protected as if in a grand hall. Mount Dana and Mount Gibbs, massive red mountains, perhaps 13,000 feet high or more, bound the view on the east. The Cathedral and Unicorn Peaks, with many nameless peaks on the south, the Hoffman Range on the west, and a number of peaks unnamed, as far as I know, on the north. One of these last is much like the cathedral. The grass of the meadows is mostly fine and silky, with exceedingly slender leaves making a close sod, above which the panicles of minute purple flowers seem to float in airy, misty lightness, while the sod is enriched with at least 3 species of gentian and as many or more of Orthocarpus potentilla, etc., with their gay colors, purple, blue, yellow, and red, all of which I may know better ere long. A central camp will probably be made in this region, from which I hope to make long excursions into the surrounding mountains. On the return trip, I met the flock about 3 miles east of Lake Tenaya. Here we camped for the night near a small lake lying on top of the divide in a clump of the 2-leaved pine. We are now about 9,000 feet above the sea. Small lakes abound in all sorts of situations, on ridges, along mountain sides, and in piles of moraine boulders, most of them mere pools. Only in those canyons of the larger streams at the foot of declivities, where the down thrust of the glaciers was heaviest, do we find lakes of considerable size and depth. How grateful a task it would be to trace them all and study them. How pure their waters are, clear as crystal in polished stone basins. None of them, so far as I have seen, have fishes, I suppose on account of falls making them inaccessible. Yet one would think their eggs might get into these lakes by some chance or other, on ducks' feet, for example, or in their mouths, or in their crops, as some plant seeds are distributed. Nature has so many ways of doing such things. How did the frogs, found in all the bogs and pools and lakes, however high, manage to get up these mountains? Surely not by climbing. Such excursions through miles of dry brush and boulders would be very hard on frogs. Perhaps their stringy, gelatinous spawn is occasionally entangled or glued on the feet of water birds. Anyhow, they are here and in hearty health and voice. I like their cheery chunk and crink. They take the place of songbirds at a pinch.